Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and tonight what I'm going to be doing is hunting curbs in the dark again, because I always tend to log on at night for some strange reason. And I'm going to be talking about a phrase that a friend of mine, Rinceman75, introduced to me. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Also, please consider going to patreon.com/JulianMcBain if you want to support my work. It is appreciated. You will get a copy of the Modern Entropian, and when it's complete, you'll get a copy of Personal Finance for Gamers. Both are ebooks. Okay, so this is something that was introduced to me by Rincewind75. Go subscribe to his channel, especially if you like Fallout content. He puts out good stuff. It's a motto of a group that he's affiliated with, and I am unabashedly stealing this as a personal motto. Nil satis, nisi optimum. Nil satis, nisi optimum. Now, as someone who took Latin for 4 years, I love Latin mottos, especially when they're as impactful as this one. For those of you who do not speak Latin, the closest English translation, because Latin to English is more of an art, is as much an art form as it is a science, because it didn't have all the pronouns or adverbs. Nil satis nisi optimum translates to nothing but the best is good enough. Nothing but the best is good enough. That's a pretty harsh statement. Or is it? In one way, it could be taken to mean, if it's not the best, I don't want it. That's a very materialistic way of looking at things. I can understand why you might look at it that way, but in reality, it's an admonishment to you. It's an admonishment to me. Nothing but the best is good enough. Nothing but my best efforts. Nothing but my all is good enough. And if I fail to go all in, then I have failed to do my duty. You know, I've been talking a lot about the 10x rule on my channel recently. I'm listening to the audiobook again. I've got a hardcover copy of the book as well, but I really like audiobooks because I can listen to them while I'm driving, and it's always almost universally read by the author, which is it really allows them to put their voice into it. And one of the things that Grant says is be all in. If you're not all in, you're not putting enough effort behind it, or it's not important enough for you to put effort into it. So why waste your time on it? Similarly, if I'm not giving my best, I'm robbing someone of the time that I'm taking from them. If I'm not giving my best to my students, my mentees, then I'm stealing that time that they could be working with someone who is all in. If I'm not giving my best to my employer, why would he keep me on? Why would he not hire someone who is going to give their all? They might even be inferior at the job, but if they're giving their all, they will improve. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, far from it. Today was a shining example of me not being perfect. But rather than assuming that you're going to be able to manage it all the time, consider it to be a goal. That person named themselves Yoda Yoda. Yoda. Sorry, that's my Weird Al Yankovic impression for the night. If you're not willing to give your all, if you're not willing to commit, not only to doing the job at hand, whether it's your employment or the hobby you're working on, or if you're a mentor like me, mentoring your mentees, teaching your children, being a father or mother, then why are you wasting their time? And if you aren't giving your best, what are you doing to try and improve upon that fact? Because we aren't able to give our best to everything all the time. And there are plenty of people who think you can, but we're human. You know, we have so many calories to burn. We have so many hours in a day. You know, life happens. And I'm one of the few, I haven't heard a whole lot of people who put out content like this that say, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. Yes, you want to call yourself on those mistakes, but expect mistakes to happen. Expect off days. That doesn't mean you accept them to be normal. That doesn't mean that you just allow them to happen. But understand that they will happen, and that when they do, you need to get up the next morning and say, yesterday was an off day. I need to make today not an off day. Because nothing but your best is good enough. Now, I've spent many years of my life where I didn't put much effort into anything. Kind of just coasted. I did my job so I could go home and do what I wanted to do. Mostly play video games. You know, after my son was born, spend time with him. You know, I worked the job so I could play the video games. That was my life. And to a certain extent, that will probably always be the case, but maybe not now. You know, we work our jobs so we can earn money to live. But I wasn't giving my all to those jobs. I wasn't giving my best. I was giving good enough. Because I was giving good enough, I didn't progress. When I did start giving my best, I started to move up. This is true in grocery, and it was true when I moved into banking. And it's true in my current position now. When I give my best, and now is a little different because unlike before where giving your best, you were reliant on that being a way for you to get promoted. My current job, there's no upward mobility. It's a very small business. But because it's commission-based, if I give my best, I make more sales. If I make more sales, I get a bigger paycheck. It's both the benefit and the drawback to working on commission. Because it's not always about your best. Sometimes it's just about, you know, people actually wanting what you're selling. But I'm not here to talk about sales. I'm here to talk about putting the most effort in. But using sales as an example because it's easily measurable isn't a bad thing either. So as a salesperson, I dial phones. You know, we call it smile and dial. Because ultimately that's how you end up getting sales, is you have to talk to people. The phone is still the easiest way to talk to people, so you smile and dial. If I make 25 dials, am I likely to be doing as well as I do if I'm making 50 dials? Probably not. Oh, ripper snappers. We're not going after ripper snappers, we're going after Kerberos. If I know I can make 50 dials in a day and I opt only to do 40 without other important work, like today was a prime example. And I know today I wasn't on my A game, but I also had a lot of incoming calls. And understanding that you can't call someone while you're on the phone with another person. I accept that, you know, for every call, incoming call I take, that's one less dial I can make in a day. Did I spend as much time on the phone doing what I was supposed to do as I should have to give my best? And the answer for today is no. Do I make the attempt to do that most days? The answer to that is yes. Will there be days where I don't succeed in doing so? The answer to that is also yes. Will you have days like that? Absolutely. Does that mean you give up? The instant you start to accept anything other than your best of yourself, you will begin to decay and you will stop striving towards your goals. And this is a harsh truth I have had to revisit with myself lately. In fact, I've been thinking about it a lot over the course of the last couple weeks. You know, I know when I've gone off track. And I have plenty of reasons to do so. A lot of shit's happened in the last 3 months. A lot of shit's happened in the last 6 months. I mean, hell, it's 2020. No, you look up 2020 in a dictionary, there's a picture of a dumpster fire next to it. Pretty sure 2020 is going to be a verb in the Oxford Dictionary by the end of next year. Or an adjective. Adjective, I think, is actually the proper term for it, because it's describing something. Boy, was that 2020. But I let everything distract me from being my best. I stopped going for the goals, and because of that, I slipped backward. If you're not moving up the Pareto distribution, you are most certainly sliding down it. And I am here to tell you, if you're not giving your 100%, you aren't climbing it. So what do? The first thing you need to do is you need to commit yourself to giving your best to every task you are given. Don't bitch about it. Don't whine about it. Don't be saying, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I mean, yeah, you can say it because that's always, you know, that's at any job, you know. Everyone kind of jokes around and grouses, commiserates, you know, we'd much rather be barbecuing or watching the game or whatever. But don't be idle. If you're going to complain, don't be idle while you complain. Complain and work on something. If you're in a factory, keep producing widgets. Boy, this job sucks. Stamp, 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 stamp. Maybe if I can get 110% of my quota, I can get that raise. See how that works? You know, not only that, but in doing your best, it's better to weave away those negative feelings insofar as they aren't used to try and build a sense of camaraderie amongst your folks. Because there are industries where bitching about the job is kind of a requirement. I get it. That's basically construction in a nutshell. But at the same time, don't let that get in the way of you getting better at your job. And it doesn't matter what the job is. I don't care if you are a carpenter or a factory worker in assembly, or you work in finance, or you work in sales, or you sell cars. I don't care if your job is to clean buildings. Admonish yourself to become the best at that job. Only the best is good enough. Become the best at that job, so that when people go looking for someone to do the job, they look for you. Now, that doesn't sound like a great solution, because then you end up with more work. But you also end up with good press. And then when they go looking for someone to promote, or if you run said cleaning organization, you know, a cleaning company, when they look for someone to go do a job that pays money, or when they have friends that need someone to be referred to them, they think of you. And now you're building your success. And if you're running a company, doing a job you don't like doing, get the hell out. Find something different. If you own and run that business, I understand that you need to feed your family and everything, but Jesus, why would you build a business doing something you hate? That's a dumb formula. You can be good at something you don't like doing. You can absolutely be good at something you don't like doing. But honestly, if you take the time to get good at it, you're probably going to enjoy it in the end, because you're going to enjoy the results. Because there's one thing you can't argue. You can't argue with results. And again, that's cross-industry. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what people think of you. You cannot argue with results. You know, as long as you stay within your ethical boundaries, I gotta stipulate that, because there are plenty of unethical people out there. I do think that there are a small percentage of the population, but they most certainly exist. But within ethical boundaries, wow, lost my train of thought there, because I was thinking, mention those ethics, because the Wolf of Wall Street is something that happened. And even Jordan Belfort, who is the Wolf of Wall Street, and he puts out a lot of content now. He has a podcast and all that. He did his time. He served his penalty. He says he made the mistake of not teaching the ethics and not following the ethics of what he did. He was wildly successful. He got good at it. He was wildly successful at it. I mean, he made, like, ridiculous money. Become the best at what you do. Put the effort forth. Do what you need to in order to succeed within those ethical boundaries. And like I said, within those ethical boundaries, there's no arguing with results. That was the point I was trying to make. There's no arguing with results attained ethically. It doesn't matter what course you had to take to get there. If you get the results, no one's going to bitch at it about it. More importantly, if you put the inputs in, you're going to get the results. You know, I mentioned this in one of my McBain moments. Success is a science. If you put in the proper inputs, you're going to get the results. And it's going to be repeatable time and time again. It's a science. You know, 2 + 2 must always equal 4. If you keep throwing 2s into the formula, it's going to keep coming out 4. You can tetrate that, and the number will get bigger. The only way you're going to get those results is if you put your best foot forward and give your best every single day. This is not an option, folks. And yeah, you're gonna slip. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have off days. You're gonna be sick. Your brain's not gonna be in the right headspace. Shit happens. And you know what you do? You reflect and say, I didn't put my best foot forward today. I need to make sure that tomorrow I don't repeat that. Because if you do, you're just starting to accept second rate. And once you start to accept second rate, you're going to become second rate. Now that doesn't mean, you know, don't forget the rule, because I'm not saying second rate compared to other people. It's second rate compared to yourself. Everyone likes to compare themselves to other people, but that's the wrong formula. You know, Dr. Peterson said, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. And that's a really very real part of this formula. You can't, you measure yourself against other people. That's natural. But regardless of how you tend to measure yourself, you need to be able to measure yourself against how you were the day before and see positive progress. If you give your best, you're going to see positive progress. And yeah, you're going to hit ceilings and thresholds, plateaus. That's the term I'm looking for. Doesn't matter. If you put your best foot forward every single day, if you admonish yourself when you misstep, if you take responsibility for the actions that you took that did not result in the results you were looking for, you are going to be successful. It will happen. It takes time. There's probably going to be a lot of pain and suffering along the way. You know what? Tough shit. It will happen. You will be successful. And whatever it is you've struck out to be successful at. But you've got to demand the best of yourself. This is the way that SEALs live. This is the way that Marines live. And I am neither one of these things. I am not a Marine, I'm not a SEAL. You must always be putting your best forward. I know I'm getting repetitious now. There's no way for me other than to repeat it, to drill it into your heads. Because I'm also drilling it into my own. You know? I don't like comparing myself to other people, other than to use them as a benchmark for my own progress. And what I mean by that is, like, when I fence, I will find a fencer that I know is better than I am. Oh, what the hell? My own fencing mentor was someone I used to benchmark myself against. And then I started beating him because I worked with them all the time. And when you fight someone all the time, you start to know their tells. You start to learn their movements. You know what parts of them are broken. So it's harder to benchmark yourself against someone you fight with a lot, because you get used to each other and you start calling each other on your bullshit. And what I mean by that is fencing in particular, all fighting is like this, but fencing in particular is a chess match. It's the art of subtly lying with body language. And fighting is really the only place where lying is acceptable, because that's the way you win, right? Is you make them think you're going to do something you're not going to do. Well, when you fight with the same person over and over again, you start to get better against them because you start to learn their movements, you learn their body language, even if it's subconsciously. And it's like, oh, they're positioning their body like so their next move is to do X. And so you know to block X, you need to do Y. Right? So a good fencing example would be if your opponent is someone that you fight a lot, and my mentor's name was Martin, and so I'm just going to say, okay, if Martin moves his foot forward like so, I know his next move is to do a lunge straight down the pipe. He generally hesitates X number of tenths of a second, because that's what fencing is. It's a game played in tenths of a second. So it's like 0.8 seconds. And this is all subconscious. You're not like literally thinking this process. You're like, oh, movement, boom, boom. That's how it actually happens. But this is literally what your brain is doing at lightning speed. Okay, move like this. He moved it 4 inches forward, and so I need to block in this parry. Parry 4, cross block. Overcome that move. You overcome a move that I've been stabbed with like a dozen times. So your own teacher isn't a great benchmark after a while, especially in fighting, but also in other places, because you begin to anticipate what they're going to do. And that's good. That means you're learning. But it also means you don't have a good benchmark. So I liked to benchmark myself against people I didn't fight very often. One fencer in particular was Dante. Dante is an incredible fencer. He is quick, light on his feet, and can make himself very, very small by the way he positions himself, which means he's incredibly hard to hit. In my entire time fencing, I have laid steel, meaning I've managed to hit Dante once. Now, I haven't had the opportunity to fence him in like 3 years because I now live 2,000 miles away as opposed to 500. But yeah, it's well, I think he was in Wisconsin. It's like 15,000 miles, 1,500 miles, but still, it's a long distance. It's no short commute. Let's put it that way. But when I could fight him 2-3 times a year, I was able to benchmark my progress by saying, I know that I was able to last X number of moments against him in the ring the last time. I have extended that by Y amount. And I think the last time I fought him, it was a best out of 3. I put steel on him once. He hit me twice, so he obviously won. But the rounds were exceeding a full minute. And I think they were knocking on the door of 2. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with fighting, outside of the global 11, 12, we'll call it 15. See what the official marker says. 15. For those of you unfamiliar outside of professional wrestling, a fight that lasts more than 2 minutes is a long fight. And 2 minutes is a long-ass time to be in a ring. Like, there's a reason that those rounds are only 2 minutes. And if you think 2 minutes is long, go 10. I dare you. It is a long-ass time to be fighting someone. And I was managing to pull it off beyond 60 seconds before he stabbed me. Which sounds like not a lot, but it's a lot. The only way I was able to extend that length of time is by putting the energy in and putting my best foot forward every time I took the field. I stopped accepting second rate. I stopped allowing fear to hold me back, because that's what it was. It was fear. It was fear of facing the blade, but it was also fear of getting better, because then people would expect me to continue to do better. I did the same thing in my current job. I was afraid of the phones. I wasn't afraid of the phones, but I hated making cold calls. I'm still not a fan. But I don't avoid it like I used to. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to put your best foot forward. You need to keep hammering away at becoming the best you. That is the only way you're going to succeed. Once you got that figured out, shit gets a lot easier. Like, once you figured out the whole, I need to get off my ass and do what I need to do and hammer at it until it's done. I need to embrace the grind. Everything gets easier. Does that mean there aren't going to be hard moments? No. Sometimes you're going to have a shit day, and sometimes you're going to have a shit year. 2020 is a prime example of everyone in the world having a shit year. And if you're not having a shit year, drop a comment so I can find out what the fuck you're doing, because props to you, man. But you always have to be your best. And I might have done this on yesterday's McBain moment. I'm going to be recording the moment tomorrow. This comes out on Wednesdays. It's Monday night, and it's really late on Monday night because I had a meeting I wasn't expecting. Internalize this phrase. Nil satis, nisi optimum. And never let yourself forget it. And remember, it's an admonishment for you to never accept anything but the best of yourself. Today and every day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. As always, I appreciate all of your support, and we'll see you in the next one.